My sister Kristal is one of my biggest inspirations in life and one of my biggest role models as well. She's done so much in such a short period of time. She has one of the most amazing minds that I've ever met in my whole entire life. And I'm super privileged to interview her today to bring you her story as to what she's been able to achieve in such a short period of time. It's so good to have you back on the camera, Chris. I know it's been a minute, but really looking forward to today. Like the last 6 or 7 years for you has been a crazy journey, right? Like you've done so much, more than anybody that I actually know in my life. And it's amazing to see that you're starting to reap the benefits from all of that. But to give everybody a little bit more context, you know, what was your life like before you moved to the Sunshine Coast all those years ago?
Yeah, so about 7 years ago, I moved to the Sunshine Coast. Prior to that, I grew up in Sydney with Ben, Simon, my family down there. Did a bit of traveling. I lived down the snow. I lived in Byron. So in my early 20s, I was a little bit of a wanderer, just really trying to find myself and find my place in the world, I guess. I did some study. I did a business course. I trained as a PT. I worked as a BDM at Fitness First for a few years. I really loved what I did, and I really loved the foundations of, I guess, some of the jobs I did have and some of those learnings I found along the way in my early 20s, but it wasn't really until I was sort of mid-20s and moved to the Sunshine Coast 7 years ago that I really feel like things sort of cemented for me. I felt like I'd really found my place in the world, begun working with Ben here at Pumped On Property, and really started realizing my passion for property, for investing, my love for sort of just being in a pretty chilled environment here on the Sunshine Coast. And from there kind of established what did become a pretty intense 6 years that followed.
I can really feel that as well. Like, you know, coming up here, like Kristal and myself are only, 18 months apart? Yeah, so we've always been really close growing up and best friends growing up as well, which is awesome. And I felt that too when I moved to the Sunshine Coast. I really felt like I could finally be myself. You know, you get rid of all the baggage that we carried back in the day, us little rat bags growing up in Engadine. But it was a good thing for us. So 7 years ago, you moved up to the Sunshine Coast, you moved into a share house with some girlfriends and started working with Ben at Pumped On Property, started learning more about property investing and the property market. You know, Kristal has now 7 years on become the head buyer's agent at Pumped On Property. She's helped our clients purchase over $150 million worth of property and kicks mine and Ben's ass when it comes to negotiating. So she's been such a massive asset. But then you met Matt, my now brother-in-law and the father of my 2 nephews. Tell me about that, you know, connection, that relationship, and what sort of unfolded after meeting Matt.
Yeah, so Matt and I met about 3 or 4 months after I moved to the Sunshine Coast. Meeting him really was the best thing that happened to me. He had a really solid work ethic, as did I. We'd both been saving for our own personal things in the background, and then when we met and came together, it was like we both just found our person. Like he knew he wanted to take his life in a different direction than what he had been. Like he was always a bit of a traveler, surfer, just typical Sunshine Coast guy in his 20s and 30s. And I was the same. Like I was living in a share house with some girls, having heaps of fun. But when we met each other, we really kind of just knew that we wanted to make more of our life. So literally, like, I think a few months after we met, we bought our first property together, which is crazy to think looking back on now.
It is.
But honestly, amazing that we took that leap together, because I do think if we hadn't have made that step when we did, it wouldn't have set us up for sort of the foundations we've now made for ourselves and the things that we've done since then, which was, I think, 6 years ago.
And that was a property in Coolum in, I believe, 2016, or was it 2017? 2016. So, you know, talking about the Sunshine Coast property market, like that was almost the true bottom of the Sunshine Coast real estate market. A lot happened after that. They announced the upgrade to the airport. They announced a big redevelopment in Yarumba. It was becoming one of the more sought after locations on the Sunshine Coast, which it was obviously just where Matt grew up, and like he's a surfer, he wanted to be close to the beach and in nature, and you guys got all of that. But fortunately timing the market really enabled you to leverage forward. And with Matt being a carpenter / builder, he's a very, very handy man. And obviously you guys were able to turn that from a 3-bedroom, 1-bath to a 5-bedroom, 2-bath with 2 completely separate areas, right?
Yeah, so that property really did set us up very, very well. Like Simon said, Matt is a builder or a carpenter by trade, so we really did buy what we could buy. We sort of just stripped away ego in making the decision and just took the opportunity to dive into the market with the money that we had at the time. And by doing that, it really gave us the opportunity. We spent the following 4 years renovating that house, in amongst having lots of good fun. Like we were still, I think he was 28 when we met, I was 24 or 25. So we were still pretty young and just wanted to enjoy ourselves. It came a bit of a party house, but over the years, we renovated it, did it up really, really nicely, and were able then to leverage off that property down the line when we decided to sell it from Coolum and move onwards.
I love it. So 2016, you've got your home, you're living up here on the Sunshine Coast. How did you go from that one property to then accumulating 3 investment properties?
Yeah, so I think it was 2017. It was about 9 months after we bought that property that we bought our second home on the northeastern beaches of Brisbane. Again, it was a renovator. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath house, just a high-set Queenslander, similar to the property we'd first bought, upstairs, downstairs. Great location. It was a couple of k's from the water, and again leveraged off Matt's skills to buy that property, knowing we wanted a renovator. Again, just buying what we could afford at the time, taking advantage of the market. That was a very low point in the market as well for the northeastern beaches, so we're really lucky to get it when we did. So that was property number 2. In 2018, we went on an overseas trip for 7 weeks. We travelled to South Africa and Europe. We got engaged. We also got married in the same year, and we fell pregnant about a month after our wedding. So 2018 was a really big year for us, but we didn't do too much investing, and it was just before I was about to have our first baby in 2019 that we purchased property number 3. So it was a little bit scary. I was about to go on maternity leave. We already had 2 big two big mortgages for us. We were already in a little bit of debt, going on maternity leave, a little bit of the unknown. But because we'd done that renovation on our first property, we leveraged off refinancing to access some income, or to access some equity, and buy that property number 3. And literally it settled, I think, about a month before Asher, my first son, was born.
That's insane. It's cool to see, because there's so many different reasons that could have held you back from doing what you wanted to do. And had have you done what was common and sort of retreated there, you wouldn't have been able to set yourself up. You wouldn't have been able to purchase this amazing, beautiful home that we're recording in today. So it's funny how, things work out, and it's always scary, right? To take those risks and to back yourself and to have that confidence to move forward when you've already got a lot of debt, you're about to go to a single income. There was a lot of different things happening in your life. You got renovators that you're trying to, fix up and things like that. So, it's cool to see that, the hard work, the sacrifice, the risks actually paid off for you. But obviously with your backing in as a buyer's agent, with understanding where the Brisbane market was at the time, where the global economic cycle was at the time as well, it kind of gives you that confidence to kind of step up and really give it a crack. So obviously a massive couple of years there, getting the first 2 properties, or first 3 properties, having your first little boy, Asher. How did everything sort of unfold there? Because, you were obviously, in my opinion, I thought you were living in your dream home in Coolum, and then all of a sudden everything changes.
Yeah, so Asher was about 6 months old. We'd renovated our home that we were living in at the time, super happy with that. It was a beautiful property. We decided to go and back and renovate the property number 2 that we'd bought. So North Brisbane, market had moved a little bit by then. We saw a bit of an opportunity, again, Matt's skills. So we jumped in and basically renovated it, just did a quick 3-week kind of house rule style, the block reno on the property.
It was so good.
But it turned out really nicely, and we put that property on the market. at the same time as deciding to sell that property, this home popped up on the market. We were in the market looking for an investment property. We were kind of looking around the Sunshine Coast. We thought we'd sell that property in Brisbane, hold on to our principal place in Coolum that we were living in, and buy another investment property. So we were looking, going through the process of arranging our finance, that sort of thing. At this point, Ash is about, I think, 7 or 8 months old, and I fell pregnant with baby number 2. So looking for investment property, and this property hit the market. We'd seen it online for quite a while. Super amazing opportunity. It was just one of those little sweet spots in the market where I don't know, because COVID had hit, this is sort of mid-2020 at this point in time. People were super fearful. Things were sitting on the market for quite a while. There was just this big opportunity. So literally just took this leap of faith to put an offer on this home. At this point, our property in Brisbane hadn't sold yet. We were still living in what we thought was our dream home in Coolum, but we decided to put an offer on this and at the same time try and sell that home in Coolum. So this is all in the space of about 6 weeks. From there, we ended up securing this amazing property. At the time, it looked nothing like what you see today. So we've done a lot of work since we bought it. At this stage, this property settled, I think it was about November in 2020. My first son is 15 months old and I'm a month away from giving birth, and we decided to, property in Brisbane settled at the same time, property in Coolum settled at the same time, buying this, and to add another level of complexity, we decided to buy property number 5 as well. So we didn't want to waste the money we'd made by selling 2 properties and only put it into one. And we always knew we wanted that backing of 2 investment properties and 1 PPR. So this is all unfolding in like November, December 2020, coming off the back end of months of lockdown, a crazy, tumultuous year, pregnant with second child, literally about to go on maternity leave, and again settling on another property, deciding to do some renovation on this home before we moved in. And since then, we've sort of just coasted through 2021 and just really enjoyed this home that we've built for ourselves, enjoyed my 2 kids, so they're now 2.5 and 14, 15 months old. So they keep myself pretty busy.
Well-deserved break in 2021, I think, and 2022, hopefully just another calm year. But when she says it was a calm year in 2021, she still did a huge renovation on this house. Like, they did a lot before they moved in, but a lot during 2021 as well. So a down year for Kristal is a big year for most out there as well. So it's so amazing to hear that story and just see how capable you can actually be when you find the right partner, find the right team, and just back yourself and give it a crack. Like, obviously it comes with its stresses, its sacrifices, it's hard work, but you're now 31, Matt's 34, 35?
34, I think.
And, you're in your dream home. You've still got 2 amazing investment properties down in North Brisbane that have got a lot of potential down there. So what's the plan for the future now that you guys are where you are? I'm at that crossroads in my life now. We've got 2 kids. I think your priorities shift a little bit. Like, we have hustled for the last 6 years. We've built what we have, and I'm at that point where I'm actually like so content. If I never do anything again, like, I know we've built the foundations before we had kids, that would be totally okay. But it's also not in mine and Matt's nature to do that. So both the properties we're holding in Brisbane, again, both on northern beaches, sort of within a K or so of the water, are renovators or potential knockdowns. We haven't quite figured out what we're going to do with either of them yet, but we know with his skill set whether we go down the path of rebuilding the homes or renovate what's there and re-let them out, flip them. We haven't quite figured that out, but we know capitalizing and maximizing his skill set is what we want to do. As a couple, like, I love what I do in the buyer's agency realm, in the real estate realm. He loves what he does in the building realm, and there's no point for us being together if we can't sort of come together and make those decisions in the future. So like Simon said, being in the industry that we're in, like, I was able to buy properties that really did set us up using the skill set that we use and the same foundations that we use for all of our clients. But yeah, it's sort of just at that point right now where for the next couple of years we'll probably just enjoy
holding on to the properties, to be honest, until we've spent so much of the last 3 years renovating. So we kind of just want to hold on to them. They're not costing us much at the moment. Tenants are happy to stay there. So we'll probably wait until we know our kids are maybe school aged before revisiting the hustle and kind of going back to renovating and that sort of thing. We do just want to enjoy this time because you never get it back.
Yeah, and fill this beautiful home with some more babies as well.
That too.
No, thank you so much for sharing all that, Chris. Like, you know, that just touches the surface, you know, that's like the tip of the iceberg, but there was obviously so much more that went into it, so much hard work from Matt renovating 3 or 4 houses over that period of time, you know, working in the evenings, working on the weekends.
Yeah.
So hopefully a well-deserved break for you too, moving forward, and then, you know, knowing that you guys have got a really good asset base in the market at the moment, just seeing how the next few years unfold, maybe upskilling, learning a bit more about some other asset classes which we've talked about, and see how things unfold in the future. So really appreciate you sharing your story, Chris, and hopefully that has motivated some of you out there to give it a crack and get out there and achieve your dreams and achieve your goals. I know that if you had have sat there and done nothing, you wouldn't have the life that you have today. So it's important to recognise that doing nothing will create nothing, but if you learn what you need to learn, if you take the necessary action, you can completely change your life and set your family up for the long-term future with some good properties. So congratulations, Chris, it's awesome.
Thank you.
Woo, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Have cool, bro. Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. Look at that.
So nice, eh?
Oh.